to be voted on, or it's approved. Right, right. It has been voted.
We're in the ambulance council minutes, or we presented to the city council, just for the record. It was not discussed at any ambulance council meeting to present that to the councils for approval.
So we're saying since you terminated the contract in December, this has not been in this agreement, correct?
What's that?
Number, what we want to add is
That's
bidding
not-
process. That's not been in here.
Correct.
So what does that mean for all the work that's been done from December until now? This has not been in here.
As I said, we
No one
can't-
would?
No. It's not that it's no one would, it's not that we can't take bids, put out for an RFP. It's just that it wasn't in the agreement to do so.
Well, then how could you do so? It was never in there.
Well, the problem, in the original contract, sets out hours, number 6, C, D, and E are loosely described powers, give the ambulance council the right to seek funds and talk to the private funds, and you appropriate any funds it has. The problem with the 28E agreement, whether it's 1989 or as opposed to the amendment today, is that the ambulance council doesn't have any taxation authority, doesn't have any budget,
That's what my next question was.
and whether it's exercising the authority it has under section 6 of the contract as it exists now, or adding a bidding clause, it doesn't have any right to enforce, any ability to enforce an agreement because it doesn't have a budget, doesn't have any money. It negotiates with an ambulance company, it still has to pass the buck to somebody else to pay for, which is probably why the draft contract that the ambulance service presented wasn't just with the ambulance council, but also with the council.
So we can enter into a contract, but it has no funds to be able to exercise that contract.
It needs to
So
arrange
what-
for it needs to arrange for the funding somewhere else.
So that's why one of our hopes is to put out the referendum, a vote to make the ambulance so that we have the ability to levy taxes.
So it follows a process on the bidding procedure, A through E. And the last one says council will then discuss and vote on the bids read into the record. Then what?
Then we,
What happened?
then we refer to the county board of supervisors.
Didn't say that.
Well, that's, I guess what we were told was our next process, was our next step. Figure out how we're going to be able to finance it is the problem. There is no money. And they're the only entity, because they handle the EMA funds, I'm told, would be probably the only way that we could somehow, and I don't know how these would even come out of the EMA. I sat with Joni Knoll and she told me that previously they took the $50,000 out of, well, she told me first that Kenny took the $25,000 we gave out of the EMA budget. And then when it came to the $50,000, then they took it out of, I'm not sure if it was rural funds or the general basic or general supplemental funds, but they took that money out of those funds. And that's what they've used thus far. So the council made their recommendation to the board of supervisors, and the board of supervisors used those funds to pay it. Which was not bad when it was $50,000, but now it's considerably higher, and money is not there, and it is about the money because we don't know where we're going to go. So,
Well, then again, I question the reason for this intergovernmental agreement. If you
Well-
enter into contracts you don't have any money to pay for, how can you do it?
exactly. The only way it's been explained to me is this intergovernmental agreement brought all the towns together to get one 911 ambulance service throughout the county. And by bringing every city involved and having a vote and having a part of it, it kept the service within the county so that you didn't have multiple ambulances spread out all in case. So Nashua has a 911 call, and who are they calling, Charles City or, you know, the closest hospital, the closest ambulance, so it'd be Charles City or Waverly or or Fredericksburg, what they call Sumner. The better part of having this agreement is if we had the one service through 911, hopefully they would bring it back to Mercy, help our hospital, and then they could transfer from there if necessary.
Where's it state that in here?
Well, that's been the explanation given to me, as to why this,
But it's not in this
in
agreement.
that agreement was,
Again, I am very, very confused by this agreement, and there's too many open-ended items on here for me to even feel comfortable saying we're going to enforce it.
okay. So then where we stand then is we have an agreement that I believe I signed last year. I don't know what AJ has on record. That's been coming into it, we no longer have AJ. Apparently, the intergovernmental agreement from January of 1989 is still in effect. So we either can vote it to be null and void, which we still have to give 180 days to get out of it, or we can vote to make the changes, take those back. That's kind of the two options we have right now, or we don't vote for this and we just leave it the way it was. And that stays current.
Mayor, who helped write number 9?
It was an attorney out of Charles City, William Aerosol. He felt that we needed to update this agreement, so he wrote the. But we haven't had a lot of attorney recommendations because we haven't been able to really afford attorneys. The one we had forgave his $1,000 bill, writing the RFP and helping us out with these things, and will not work with us now.
Kenny, can you shed some light on this?
Yes,
I'm sure you
that
were involved in that
agreement-
1989 one.
That agreement's worked great for years. I mean, we've always used that agreement, we all got together. We've already talked to the board of supervisors at the time, the board of supervisors guaranteed to fund it. I mean, I realized that agreement didn't allow that, but the funding part of it, but the board always stepped up and funded it for us.
But it
So
doesn't say-
before we even entered in the agreement, we knew the board of supervisors would come and say, hey, we're gonna pay the bill. You guys go ahead and vote yes, we'll divvy up the money, you guys provide the housing. However, 3 years ago, even after the board said they would pay the $50,000, New Hampton mayor voted no, even though it wasn't gonna cost anything, and the fire chief gave a speech, he wanted to vote no, he talked negative about the agreement, but however, the board of supervisors directed him to vote yes. So he had to vote yes. It only passed by one vote 3 years ago. I really thought it was gonna be the end of the ambulance service 3 years ago.
Why don't they turn it over to Mercy Hospital?
What, matter of fact, I even told Jeremy 3 years ago, you'll probably never get another contract. I don't see him ever getting another contract, and obviously you can see it was denied. The reason why you don't want to give it to a hospital is the hospital, I've talked to more hospitals, they lose hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's a no-brainer. I could go on and on, but I've talked to 3 service directors, and right now they're like losing money so bad it's terrible.
Well, this deal seems pretty cut and dry to me. Maybe we should see what his books are.
Excuse me, can we wait a minute? Right now, we're discussing our 2018. I will give an update on the ambulance, then I would like to, anybody that has response, I will give you 3 minutes, we're gonna keep it civil. So hold off on that, please, let us finish this. So obviously, what it says in our intergovernmental agreement, there is behind the scenes a gentleman's agreement or whatever before that was not in writing that this is how it's gonna go.
One other thing, I disagree with the fact it should be out for bids. I mean, I can't imagine you're gonna do bids every time you turn around. If you go to a 1-year contract, you're gonna take bids every year. It
Well,
would be fine if there was 17 different people that would bid it.
okay,
I mean, you're not gonna get anybody to bid.
now.
That's the problem.
Okay, Kenny, excuse me. Getting back to this, and if you want to discuss the bids, we were advised when our contract was terminated. How it went down 1.5 years ago was there was asked to be a meeting. They came to the meeting, presented this contract, said, we agree with this tonight or we're terminating. Part of the reason that I voted no then, and I will vote no now, I did vote no now, is there's a blank check for $50,000 that we don't know how it's being spent. Anytime that we go through, people come into our city needing money for their businesses, they go through a process of filling out a business form, a business plan, showing PMLs or whatever to get government money, to get city money.
This agenda item? or
So-
this one?
I'm explaining this, by the governor, he said that it was canceled. So, and he's showing this, that vote was no, for that reason. Now, it went back to the Board of Supervisors, they funded the $50,000, even though it passed by one. So, we're back to an attorney who suggested that our contract was terminated. We couldn't get a meeting in time, it was terminated, so now we're hiring an attorney who says, you've not had a bidding process, you need to put this out for bid. I contacted Iowa League of Cities attorney and said, okay, this is what's going on, what are your recommendations? If you've never had an RFP or a bidding process, I strongly urge you to do so. That's coming from 2 attorneys. So now we're putting it out for bid to see what's out there. I'm not even gonna go into that whole thing, we got 1 bid. End of story, we got 1 bid. So now we're looking at this bid, and this is kind of where we need to decide then, or we discussed that when I got back to talk about the update. Right now, we have an intergovernmental agreement that apparently doesn't spell out everything it needs to spell out. We don't have a way of funding unless we do go out for a resolution or referendum. We can go out for grants. I think that was also the intention, I'm told, to have this, was that we could go out and get grants for equipment. I don't know that there's going to be grants out there that will go for salaries, but it takes cities to write those grants and to do that on behalf of their city if they want help with their equipment. So what we are looking at tonight is this intergovernmental agreement that we can leave as was, signed back in 1989. We can make the changes, adding a bidding process to it, and changing these other dates and time, or we have the option to vote out of it. In which case, we are still in contract with this for another 180 days. Once I take it back to the council and say this was not agreed upon. So that's what this council right now is looking at to do.
So with this, the way it states, would there be interviews or anything like that? Or where it says that sealed bids will be read on the record, and the council will discuss and vote on the bids read into the record?
If the new ones come out. And they will, I mean, if this is approved, then we go up for bid again.
And this is.
Yes.
Doesn't change the basic flaws in this agreement that the
So-
council doesn't have the ability to contract, it doesn't have the ability to perform the obligation. As Kenny was saying, you've got to get permission of supervisors to have the money to accept the bid. And why wouldn't you just kind of go directly to the board? Let the supervisors accept or not accept an offer for anything.
I don't see why it's really in our hands.
Well, it's not in our hands at all. It's either in,
Right.
it's either the ambulance council or,
Well, if the current agreement allows that to happen, then I'm in favor of leaving it the way it is, because putting 9 in the current, this current proposal gives me heartburn. It's too open-ended, and it's too tied to having to come up with a financial segment of it through the ambulance council, not through the board of supervisors or whatever.
Okay.
There is no funding ability for this council whatsoever, but it states too much of that in here. I'm not happy with this new one. Well, apparently somebody's lived with this current one for 30 years and not had any problems, so.
Can I speak for a second on this agenda item? From the ownership standpoint of it, I'm trying to bid or make a contract with the council who has even with the 1989 set of bylaws, it says that they can contract, but it doesn't say where the funding's gonna come from. So then you gotta go to the board of supervisors, and they say no to the funding, then how do you sign the contract? It's back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So it's, if you guys withdraw from the ambulance council, which it sounds like a suggestion has been made at the meetings, then that would basically put it on 100% of it on the board of supervisors.
So explain to me then, what is the purpose of the ambulance council to begin with? I know it's been in place for 30 years, but there's never been the contract side of it that they've had to deal with. So originally, what's the purpose of the ambulance council?
Correct me if I'm wrong, originally I thought it was to make a recommendation to the board. Was that the purpose?
The purpose of the ambulance council was that all the cities work together to provide an ambulance service for Chickasaw County, every resident in Chickasaw County. That was the purpose of the ambulance council. That is the sole purpose of the ambulance council, is to work together so that we're representing, every city was represented on that, and not just the board of supervisors. The board of supervisors just representing the rural people. I mean, you dump it on them. If I was a supervisor, I'd be saying, hey, don't dump this all on us. We need to keep council alive. We need to keep council alive, just like it has been. Get past this. This will work out. We don't want to get rid of the council. I mean, I think that's going to be a bad decision for everybody in this room, to get rid of the ambulance council. I don't think they should be where they have to take bids. I think that's something that's foolish.
But Ken, if the
Yes.
ambulance council has no real authority, then what's the purpose of it?
Recommend it to the supervisors.
Which is none of
And then at one time, every city paid per capita. Every city paid per capita at one time, way back when. So, that was the purpose of the ambulance council.
But do you understand my question? Like, that has no authority, we've been talking about.
Well, they got authority to enter into a contract,
No budget authority.
no budgeting authority. Even if they pass a tax law, we're not gonna have the authority to spend that tax, the EMS tax. They're never gonna have authority to tax. You know, very few boards in Iowa have authority to tax, and they'll never get that. But they definitely can make the recommendation and work with the supervisor and get it resolved. I mean, the last thing we need to do is split this whole county up. I mean, we start divvying up all 5 different ambulance services, which ain't gonna happen. I mean, because I spoke with 3 services already, and they're like, we can't cover our own stuff. We're not sending an ambulance up to your community. But we can talk about that later. Try to keep the ambulance council alive for now, at least, but I would take out the bidding part.
So the vote that occurred last week, the intent of that was to decide whether to send it on to the board of supervisors?
Correct, that's all it was.
That's all it was. So
That's
why
all it
did
was.
Why did it end up the way it did then?
Because it was shot right from the beginning. If you'd have been to the meeting, all we heard was this, and this. And like I always said, lack of leadership. All that vote was to send it on to supervisors, could have sent it on to the board, been over with it. Let the board come back and see what they're gonna do, maybe meet back with the ambulance council, try to figure out an acceptable proposal for everybody. But that's all it was.
Kenny, you just said really the only thing with the board of supervisors is for the funding.
No,
We send a recommendation, and they have to decide on the funding.
everybody should decide on that funding. It shouldn't be just them. I mean, every elected official, their number one job is public safety. I mean, for 30 some years, that's all I ever hear. Every FEMA training, every state training, number one job is public safety. So it's all of us in this room. It's all of us in this room, public safety. So,
If I'm reading deep, it's not saying to get rid of the ambulance council. All it's saying is whether you adopt the changes to the agreement, or if you don't, it stays the way it is.
Correct.
correct.
So I don't think anybody's saying let's not have the ambulance council.
Good.
Well,
I
that,
understand that people would have rather let the board of supervisors say if they have the money or not.
What the board of supervisors is saying, or what they've told me anyway, is that since the ambulance council's in charge of negotiating and whatnot, since they can't do anything, they say their hands are tied until a proposal is made to them by the ambulance council.
Correct.
They said they can't do anything, their hands are tied, they can't do anything until there's a proposal made by the ambulance council. That's the response I got from the chairman.
Not the current one.
No, I don't think so either.
New one is. That's what Article 9 is for.
Well, I think we're all here trying to figure out how to make it work. If changing this gets in the way of us moving forward, I would say don't change it now. Let's focus on the issue, which is how do we fund something that makes sense for the community? I would say every single person here would like to have us come up with a solution. How we pay for it, I have no idea at this point. Now, if the county board of supervisors has $900,000 over the next 3 years, or whatever that amount is, then, okay, that sounds good. But otherwise, it's gonna be coming back to here at some point, because I don't think the money's there.
So it needs to start with the board of supervisors.
But it can go to the board of supervisors, I agree with that, and then, like you said, if they have a magic wand that can make it work, that would be really good. But
So are you saying let's just keep the original?
I would just keep the original one. I don't see that this gets us, the real issue is how to maintain an ambulance service. And I don't think
It's just somehow we got enough money and we just,
Okay, so does anyone want to make a motion to approve the amendments to it? Okay, now then that dies, we'll go with the original agreement. Okay. Update on the ambulance council then. This is kind of how this is going to work, guys. I'm going to give the update to my council for what was discussed at Monday night's meeting. I know you're all here because you have an opinion, you'd like to say something. We're going to keep it civil. And then we'll allow for 3 minutes for some comment, a person. So we're not here till 4 o'clock in the morning, but this group sitting here doesn't, except for me, doesn't really have a say in it. So tomorrow night's meeting in front of the ambulance council would be a better place to express your feelings. But if there are some things you want to be heard tonight, we'll listen to it. Like I said, it's going to be civil. And my update then to the council is Monday night, the resolution to, or the contract, the agreement that we were given, and I put it in your packet. I don't know if you got a chance to read it or not. We were instructed that our best idea is to go out for bids. We got one. It was put in RFP that we did not have to accept it. They put in their bids, they had exemptions to different items in that RFP, and they also did not have to follow up with it at the end. In their words, we had a right to review, that they had a right to not follow through with that either. So, through negotiations of 3 of the members, they sat down and went over some of the issues. More so than the issues of the money, I had some issues of the language in the agreement. The only thing they discussed in that meeting, I'm told, was pretty much about the money. How could we lower the money? So it came back to us, and we were told later that we would get to see exactly how the money was going to be spent. We didn't have that information. We got that Monday night was, here's the agreement, the 6-page agreement. This is what we vote on to send it to the Board of Supervisors for approval, for their consideration. That's what was presented to us Monday night, and that's what was voted no. My reasons for voting no, and I put it out there because there's been some very harsh words said, is my issue with the fact that we are sitting here tonight because a year and a half ago we had a 5-year agreement. A year and a half later, it's been terminated. Now, if that would have been our council, we were in that agreement for 3 years. We had no rights to get out of it. It was told at the time that we should have the same chance to terminate the contract that the ambulance council had to terminate the contract, but that was not how it was written. This is pretty much the same words as what was in that. They have the right, if they wanted to, give us 6 months' notice again. For whatever reason, whether it be money or whatever, they could do it. We have to pay for 2 years. $165,000 was negotiated down to $365,000, unless there were a few instances that we could find fault in, and then they had to have time to correct it, and we had to go through all these processes. So, we just felt that we deserved the same opportunity to terminate the contract if it came in front of us. One of the items that was put out for RFP that we asked for was that they respond within 5 minutes. It was changed to 6, that we could live with. But if they couldn't do it 75% of the time, that was a chance for us to terminate the contract. They couldn't do that 75% of the time. That was removed. So really, a lot of the options that we had to terminate our side of it were taken out of it without costing us 2 years worth of that wage. Okay, so agreed, that's one of the reasons I looked at it. The other one was the fact that like I said, opening of the books. How do we hand out a check for that much money? In the process, in the bid, they said, we'd like to hire 3 or 4 paramedics. They haven't been able to. We've run this far with 1 or 2 paramedics and a lot of EMT. I get it. We don't have the volunteers we had before, but again, it's not a promise. This is what we'd like to do, this is what it's gonna cost. We'd like to hire some EMTs, and this is what it's gonna cost. Again, the agreement given to us was not in there really for guaranteed that they would be able to do it. What they were able to do is provide us an ambulance for 24/7 that would run critical care, or not critical care, what's what I'm looking for, ALS care, where they may or may not be able to provide us a paramedic, depending on the shift, and that they would have a backup ambulance in case something would happen to the other one, the vehicle, so they could come out. If there was a disaster, they might be able to staff 2 ambulances, but this was for 1 ambulance. That's what they put in their agreement. It wasn't, we have these many people we want to hire, and then we hear that they're hard to find. So there was really no out for us to come back and say, okay, but if you're only able to hire, then maybe we should not have to pay so much on our end of it. And that wasn't an option either. So to pass it forward and throw it on the laps of the Board of Supervisors was really neglectful on our part, because it was really saying these other things don't matter. It's all about the money. But some of these other things do matter in specifying for it. So we weren't at that meeting given all the breakdown. 3 people sat on it. One of those people did come to the meeting and vote no on it. Kind of said the same thing. It is becoming a mess. They've reached out, we've reached out, and it's not happening anymore. So the update is tomorrow night's meeting. We are moving forward, and we're going to come up with some options that we're reaching out to. Open topic of conversation, and that's where we're at right now. So it was presented to the Board of Supervisors that this is how it went down. They said, okay, until you have something to present us. So it wasn't necessarily about, here, take this contract and see if you can come up with the money. It was what that actual agreement said. That was the problem I had. You guys kind of all had an idea. I visited with you beforehand, so that I didn't go in this and just speak for myself. And that's what we said. So I'm going to open it up to the council first to ask any questions they have. I'll do my best to answer. Okay. Is there anyone who would like to speak first off? 3 minutes, and state your name and...
Obi Johnson, resident of New Hampton. What exactly are you asking Jeremy to do with his books?
Open them up so that we can see profit and loss, or a balance sheet, an expenditure sheet, receivable.
Profit, loss, is that what you're after? Are you asking for his personal finances?
No, business.
Okay, because it was stated, it's kind of sounded like you wanted to dig into his personal finances.
Not at all. I have never asked for
No,
this.
I didn't say you. I didn't say you yet.
Okay,
I
no.
didn't say you.
Not at all.
But that's the way it sounded. And I'm not, I'm for the ambulance. And we do, as a community, need to find a solution to this soon, or we are going to be in trouble.
So we're working on it.
And I think you do an admirable job, all of you. But I, from the bottom of my heart, ask you to come to a solution.
We're working on it. Thank you. No, just business financials, nothing personal. Is there anyone else?
I just, my whole concern I've been very passionate about EMS. I've been doing EMS for 30 years. I have made hundreds of calls, okay? I've taught class all over the state of Iowa. Some of my students are police chiefs, deputy sheriffs, run a transport service. Many of them have been on nurses.
We got 3 minutes.
Yep, well, seriously, 3 minutes, and that's just like the time you're asking the ambulance have to be there in 5. I mean, I teach CPR, and my students are doing CPR for 2 minutes, and I say, do you realize, as an EMT, we haven't got our pants on yet, still waiting to get to the shed.
We get who you've taught.
So, anyway, that's fine, Deb, I'll play this. This is what it costs to hire a paramedic and an EMT.
Kenny, turn around so I can see it, can you please?
You can have my 3.
I mean, you what?
You can have my 3.
Oh, okay. You sit there and you look at that and you say, whoa, that's a lot of money, okay? That's a lot of money to run an EMS service. So my answer to you, and always been to the city of New Hampton, to the ambulance council is, what is your plan? Forget Jeremy, you've already voted his contract done. You forget Jeremy, I mean, you told Jeremy no, that's fine. Move on from that. What is the plan? You have an option, start an ambulance service. You said that there's, all these surrounding counties said there's 28E that they were gonna come here with an ambulance. I've checked with all 5, there's no 28E, guys. There's no ambulance coming from another county. I have talked to 3 service directors. By the way, I used to meet with all the service directors in Northeast Iowa. At one time, I was president of Northeast Iowa EMS Association, and we had meetings every month. I talked to 3 service directors, and all of them said, and I also talked to one county dispatch who said in our own county, there's times we might have to page 2 to 3 different ambulances to make a crew. All right? I spoke with another county today who said, one of the services you're talking about, it's night and day. They don't never know if they're going to have a crew. So my question is who's going to start an ambulance service? I would be willing to help start a new ambulance service. You give me $1 million, I will fall $1 million. I will help you start another ambulance service. These people in this room deserve to have paramedic service come July 1. And we're 55 days into this. You've been doing this for 6 months, and we're no further now than we were when we started. We're still sitting here arguing over everything. 55 days left. 55 days left. I was at an industry in New Hampton with a gentleman that was pinned, okay? If we wouldn't have got IVs, if the paramedic wouldn't have been there to get IVs started before them veins collapse, and you nurses know how important that is, that would have been a fatality for that industry. That would have been a worker's death. And that is, and I don't even think about the houses that we've been to with glucose, where the paramedics got the glucose started with their IVs. First responders, we can't give that. We can't do that. If they're conscious and they're awake, we can stick a little glue or a little paste in their mouth, give them something to drink, but otherwise we gotta wait for a paramedic.
Okay, Kenny?
My 3 minutes up?
Yeah, but I want to just say one thing too. A year and a half ago, when we renegotiated that contract, we had paramedic service. Then we signed the last contract that gave us EMT service. So what's changed now till back then, when EMT was fine then, but now all of a sudden...
Can I ask you a question, Jeff? What would ever make you agree to sign this thing? All we're asking you to do is forward it to the supervisors. You council members have the authority to tell her, go ahead and get it off the wall. Let's keep going. Send it to the board of supervisors tomorrow night. Make a motion and go ahead and do this. And at least get to that far. Or, what are we going to do? And I've been to many council meetings. I've been to many council meetings with different councils in this county, and all of them have said to me, we're going to start an ambulance. 2 communities, and I'm like, I will be there to help you. We're going to start an ambulance. And I'm like, we'll be there to help you. And all of a sudden, they start looking at numbers, and the next thing you know, there ain't no ambulance. There's no ambulance. What is your budget for EMS? What is the city of New Hampton? Karen, what is your budget for EMS? Well, I can't hear you.
Zero.
$0. Dwayne Stanton sat at a meeting with me 30 years ago at New Hampton Fire Station. Him and I was on an EMS board representing Chickasaw County. Dwayne Stan says, Kenny, someday this community is going to find out that they're going to have to pay for EMS. There will not be any volunteers left, and there isn't. There is no volunteers left. You can go and you can sign on a paramedic service right now and get a $5,000 sign-on bonus. $5,000 sign-on bonus, they can't find it. I made a proposal to the Board of Supervisors. Jeff Burnett's, he found it for me. I left a lot of paperwork in my office that I wish I had. $1.4 million. Run 2 paramedic services. 2 ambulances. Staff 2 ambulances with paramedics and EMTs. My plan was to hire nurses because there's such a shortage of paramedics. Most paramedics, if you're a paramedic, you want to go on and make big money unless you get on a full-time fire department. You know, if you can get on a full-time fire department, that's where your money's at. Being a paramedic in these little hospitals, you're looking at $35,000 a year. So, but
So if you're saying even if we had that amount of money, you couldn't hire a paramedic?
this is
That's
40.
what I just heard.
This is 40,000. And our concern is that going to be enough to bring them to New Hampton, Iowa?
No, I'm hearing you say, you've been doing this for 30 years.
Yes.
And you don't think we can get a paramedic even if we paid 1.2 million? Is that what, paraphrasing what you just said?
We had a tough time, and in the county, we tried to hire 2 paramedics, we had a tough time.
So I mean, so if I'm listening to what we have a bid that says, I think we could hire paramedics if we pay 900,000.
Mhm.
You're saying we're probably not gonna get that. So if there's nothing written specifically in the contract, we may end up with no paramedics anyway, but have signed away $900,000.
But he agreed to show you what that money was going for salaries.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's in the
All I'm hearing
RFP.
you say is,
Yeah.
even if we had $2 million or whatever, you can't find the resources to do it.
You can if you bring up the money.
And even if we hired 2, you still got to pay overtime to cover their 24/7, 365, there's only so many hours in a day.
Yeah, I'm just, if I'm hearing that there isn't a chance that we're gonna have what you have anticipated. I mean, I appreciate all your knowledge, all of that, but I think you're making the point that even if we sign this contract, we're not gonna be able to hire the people.
How do you say that? How do you say that? A false statement?
I'm paraphrasing what he said. I'm listening to the guy that's been doing it for 30 years. He just told me that he doesn't think that we could do it. In fact, he would go ahead and hire nurses instead because he couldn't hire paramedics. So, I don't know. I'm here to listen. I'm trying to make sure that I'm here.
The only thing I do know, if we don't start, what is our option?
So we'll be discussing tomorrow night at our ambulance council meeting. This group doesn't have any part of that.
Well, yes, they do. They could make a motion to have you vote yes, absolutely. And that's what we did the last time.
So who's gonna pay for this, Kenny? My taxes? Let me ask you something. Jeremy, is this a business? Oh, my name's Drake Gitch. I live in New Hampton. Jeremy, is your ambulance a business?
Yep.
Okay. I've been in business myself for 42 years. When my business struggles, I'm not out buying everything. I put more of my money back in my business. Maybe Jeremy should do the same thing. Yeah, you know what?
It's pretty personal.
Yeah, it's pretty personal.
Yeah.
The only
No, Jeremy, I'm just saying, if your business is struggling,
This is not where we were
if your
going.
business is struggling, open up the book, show the board what it is, you're not making it, you need more help. I can understand that, but if you're really not, no. Is it personal? No, it's really not personal, Oldie.
It is because you're asking him about his personal finances.
No,
Yeah, you're asking him what he's got in his garage, and that's none of your
I didn't
business.
ask him about his garage. Well, here, where the ambulance park, next door, what does that cost him to
I have
rent?
no idea.
What does he have to pay?
But you
Does he have to pay anything? Nothing. Okay, where does the 911 calls go to? Who does that go to?
Dispatch,
Dispatch. Who's the dispatcher?
Chickasaw County Sheriff's Department, dispatch.
Okay, who pays for that? Jeremy?
No, that's part of the package,
Oh, that's part of the package also.
part of the, yes.
Okay, all right.
So then the dispatch sends Jeremy out to a call.
But Jeremy's not paying for the dispatch.
So one time we went out, and I was involved with like the number 5 and 6, where we went out and picked up a person.
You know, one time I had to rub a guy's hand when he had his leg, you know, one half his leg on the highway.
You know,
That's enough, guys. Is there any other constructive?
Hey Deb,
Yes.
what's wrong with every community in our county, like Kenny had said earlier, everybody paying their share?
yes.
Nobody has money. Nobody has money.
That's what you do with taxes. If that's what it has to be.
It's not.
Can't use tax dollars
It's
for it
not.
because it's not.
Well, you can use tax dollars for fund EMS. We've been doing it for 30 years. What do you mean you, oh, wait a minute, how do you think the board of supervisors come up with the 50,000? They use tax
You
money.
know, I think everybody should pay their share. Yep.
It's a contract for service, it's not a subsidy. It's a contract for service. It was a
Does everyone pay
subsidy.
their fair share of it now?
Nope.
No, there you go.
Okay, is there anything else?
Okay, if I could comment, Ken.
Yes.
I totally agree with you, but city governments are faced with numerous of issues trying to balance their budgets. I can't find a buck on the budgets right now to fund EMS. I had to cut 30 grand out of the last budget process, some out of essential services, some for Zach out of his police department. We had to cut some out of Rick's Park and Rec. It's becoming very, very difficult to balance budgets each and every year. You get less revenue, and the expenses are going up. We have virtually nothing available to pay for EMS service. If it comes down to trying to do that, we're gonna have to cut essential services, then we're gonna decide whether or not we're gonna cut cops, we're gonna cut back on fire services, we're gonna cut back on closing the pool or closing one of the parks, whatever it may be. It may come to that. If this comes back to us, there is no money in the budget right now to fund EMS. That's the reality of it. Sitting
But last week's vote was to move it forward to the board of supervisors, not to, it wasn't asked the city council for
I'm
that.
asking that question, I was asking that question earlier, if that's what the vote was last week.
And I understand what you're saying, but I've always, and I hear this, I've heard it in the Bremer County meeting I was at from the elected officials. So it seems like we've always can fund firemen and law enforcement. I mean, I had them numbers too, Scott, how much we spend on fire and law enforcement. You know what I mean? I always amazes me how we can fund all that. And like I had a gentleman tell me on Saturday, we can fund the garbage, but we just can't seem to fund EMS. We never have.
We don't fund
We don't
garbage.
fund garbage.
Huh?
We don't fund garbage.
Okay,
We don't-
water and sewer. You fund water and sewer, all right?
We bill for water and sewer, basic.
So anyway, I'm just saying, Scott,
I'm just saying out of our general fund,
Yeah.
I've dealt with it for many, many years, trying to balance a budget, and this last budget process was very difficult for me to
So
get through.
what are we gonna do then? Not have an ambulance come July 1?
No, I'm in favor of, we need an ambulance.
Okay.
I'm saying somehow we need to get it back in the hands of the board of supervisors.
And that takes that vote, Scott, that's what we're saying.
That process requires them to go out and get a referendum out there for the taxpayers to vote on essential services for EMS. So be it. I think it needs to start with the board of supervisors. This is a county-wide problem.
But that,
Yes, New Hampton has a share in that problem, but it is a county-wide problem. Everybody shares in that.
so what's coming in front of this council is, when you're looking at almost $1 million for services admitted that they'd like to get out of it in 3 to 5 years, we take that money now, reach out, start a service that you said that you'd like to start a service here and get something going that we can have long-term and get it going. I talked to Iowa Falls. They're going to send me all the money, all the figures that it took for them to get going. They found out in December that they were not going to have an ambulance. They're up and running with 3 ambulances March 1st. have all kinds of people hired. I said, okay, they told me at a meeting, you guys are gonna be losing $1 million this year. That's not true. It did cost them, they found a way to put it into a levy that they had going out, a bond issue, that they already had for 14 million, they made it 15 million, they were able to fund it. There are some ways that we're gonna discuss tomorrow night, how maybe it could be possible to do something, but how do we invest this money now? Do we take $1 million and invest it in ourselves? Get people to step back up if they can, otherwise if they do hire people, we're gonna get those numbers too. But they said, actually, they're on board to break even this year. And really, if you're a not-for-profit, that's what you're looking for, is to get enough money to pay your bills and break even. We're also reaching out because I'm told to call all these counties, so I have been. And there's numerous counties that work through their hospitals. I've reached out to Aaron and Mercy in Mason City, we're gonna get together and discuss that, what they can do to help us help them to keep it in this. We're going ahead, we're moving forward. I talked to Charles City, they're still running on no contract from last July and essentially giving them what we've been giving Jeremy because they don't have the money either. So what do? You reach out for others. There may be another ambulance service willing to come in for 6 months and help us out till we figure it out. But the bottom line is, what are we gonna do with $1 million? Are we going to give it for the next 3 years and then see what happens? Or do we start investing it right now into our future? That's what this ambulance council is gonna discuss tomorrow night.
55 days, Deb, all I want to, 55 days.
So who told you that we were going out of business in 5 years?
You do.
I have a question.
No.
My business is kids, not money, but my understanding, and these are rough figures I've been hearing people say, is it would be $29 a year per person in Chickasaw County to fund it. Personally, I'd be happy to pay that for my family of 5 if I knew the ambulance was going to be there in 5 minutes, if I had a child that was in need. So I don't know what our options are with taxation.
See, we need to pass a referendum so we can tax that. We've had it great in Chickasaw County. We have a great service who gets there in 5 minutes. Nashua, they might wait 20 or 30 minutes. Fredericksburg, the rural areas might wait 20 or 30 minutes. Meanwhile, deputies are there, first responders are there, and they start the life-saving techniques and skills that they have to be with these people. Yes, I'm hearing we have to have paramedics, and yet we haven't been guaranteed paramedics before, but now it's an essential thing.
We had a call yesterday morning and a Sunday morning, 11 o'clock, for a male subject not breathing in New Hampton who's got the most first responders and not a single one showed up. So how are you guaranteeing that first responders would show up out in the country?
Our first deputies and...
Police officer didn't even show up. He waited till the ambulance left and he followed into the scene. And we have your service. So we're really not guaranteed anything anytime. I mean, you can be busy doing something else which could leave us with nothing. We're trying to move ahead. We're trying to figure out where we're going to go from here. How can we invest in ourselves? What can people do to be more the solution than the problem? You know, can you drive an ambulance? Can we run it out of the hospital where they have different resources? That's what we're going to sit down and discuss.
Why, after 30 years, the hospital is saying no, no, no? We've had how many meetings with the hospital this last 6 months? The answer is no. Why do you expect them to keep losing money on running an ambulance? Why does every elected official say, I'm going to get the hospital to do it. I'm going to get the hospital to do it. The last meeting, 2 meetings ago, you were going to throw the hospital underneath the bus. You were going to you met with another hospital ambulance service to bring them in and try to run against our local hospital. But yet now you want the hospital to take over EMS and lose money? It's a losing situation for us.
That's not even true. I did not meet with another ambulance.
You didn't meet with Gunderson?
No, I did not. And I have...
Oh, at City Hall here in New Hampton 3 years ago, 17? Yeah, you did.
Okay.
Okay, you did. I'm sorry.
A year and a half ago,
Yes, you did.
I got slandered, and they were calling me everything but white, and this person came back to me because of what Jeremy had sent out to all these first responders. And that's how it started. Anyhow, that's fast. We had a contract. We're not going there.
I thank the City Council for listening to me. I really appreciate it. I think it's time, you know, my license is going to be done. You know, and to be honest with you, I've never served on the ambulance crew. I've never been an ambulance crew member, but I've rode in that back of that ambulance many times. I've worked up in the emergency room at the hospital. I look at some of these nurses in here, but just keep beating us EMS people to the ground. And all of a sudden, we're not You were told at the last meeting, one of the paramedics, nurses is quitting. She's done this fall. The other one said she has 70 hours of ride time a week she's taking.
So then,
So-
can you tell me how Jeremy's gonna be able to hire 3 or 4?
Put it on him. Put it on him. Thank you very much.
Nobody's saying they're not gonna get paid. It's circling up.
I said when I heard the radio this morning, nothing is gonna change. Nothing is gonna change. So, good luck, guys.
Thanks, Ted.
I have a question. That lady said like $29, is that per person?
Yep.
Oh, per person, so there's 10 people in there, $290 in their taxes, right? Okay, just curious. I didn't know if it came that had 5 in there, if it was just $29.
No.
Okay, Todd?
Todd Miller. Question for Jeremy, and it was a question for Kenny until I walked out. How has Medicare, Medicaid been a process for you to overcome with ambulance funding, with getting monies back? How has that changed for the state? Can we do something on a state level? Is it going to have to do something on a state level besides locally? Because we can't tax right now for EMS. Everybody says we don't, we have EMS. It's not a tax rate. It's not considered like law enforcement or fire. You can't tax for
A
it.
couple of years when the government privatized Medicaid reimbursement's always been crap. Iowa's one of the 3 lowest paying for Medicaid people in the United States. Now, when they privatized it, what these private companies that are reporting multi-billion-dollar profits, they're not paying the bills. They're holding on to them for 6 months or a year, and they're not paying the bills. And by the time we submit them 6 times, and they're all clean claims, they're done correctly, they're filed correctly, and they're filed on time, they're coded correctly, and because we didn't dot our I's somewhere, they deny the whole claim and not pay it. Well, what that does is it allows these insurance companies to hold on to their money for another 30 days. And what do? They get interest on their money. What's it do? It costs us money. By the time I pay my secretary to file it 6 times, we got more than $125 in it than what we're gonna get. So when they privatized Medicaid, it compounded the problem a great deal. I don't see that turning around at the State House. If our Medicaid system paid what Minnesota's Medicaid system paid, we wouldn't be here right now. We wouldn't be having this conversation. I know Aaron said a week or 2 ago that he didn't have the figures, but the hospital here, but the hospital in Charles City reported a $750,000 loss from the year before privatized Medicaid to the first year of privatized Medicaid. Thank you.
Jeremy, what you did, does that cover all of your costs? Because right now you can't count on getting reimbursed from anything.
The bid included adding 4 full-time positions and also starting to accept Medicaid, as we currently do not. So it covered some of the Medicaid losses.
So it went from 0 loss for not getting Medicaid to,
No, the bills are sent to the patients. Some do pay.
so then, when you sign on with an MCO, you still send the bill to people with Medicaid? What they
No,
pay?
you cannot. By law, if you accept Medicaid, you have to accept theirs. So, that'll bring me into my little presentation. How many of these people in this council have held the hand of somebody that is a total stranger when they're dying? How many of you have held a dead child? Somebody that was deceased from a car accident? How many of you have gone on an ambulance call? Do you know what EMS is about? Anybody? Anybody know what it's like to go out there and do it? So, has anybody in this council read the RFP?
Skimmed it.
Read the whole thing? What'd you think of it? I'm going to give you each councilman a copy of the RFP.
Okay.
In there is included our response to the RFP. We responded to each line item in there. And I don't believe you guys were ever given the response to the RFP.
I have that right here. It's in there?
Yes. In our response to the RFP is a 4-page document that we submitted with our proposal that explains what we're gonna do with the money. Also on the back, you'll find an article that came out yesterday, Air Methods, which is one of the largest medevac helicopter management companies in the U.S., based out of Colorado. They're pulling out of 7 states due to low reimbursements. And according to the newspaper article I read by Mayor Deb Larson, it says that she had support of the council. Were you guys made aware of the situation and given the opportunity to vote on your opinion of the situation?
I did not bring it to a vote, I just asked for support from each one of them. This is what was going on for the meeting, and I wanted to go into it, not taking it personally, but speaking on their behalf of that support.
You asked me for financial support.
Right,
That was it.
Yes.
I said we had no funds, that was all I was.
So you were not given a copy of our response to the RFP and asked what your opinion was on how you would represent the council?
No.
And the ambulance business.
Sorry, Jeremy. The mayor did ask me, or highlighted a couple of bullet points in the contract, and asked me for my thoughts on that, and I gave her my thoughts,
Because by calling to each council member and asking for their opinion on how to vote could possibly constitute a violation of open meetings law. You cannot
I
do
didn't
that.
ask him how to go, but I asked him for his support. No, he supported.
I support it.
It was not.
So, contrary to what Mr. Gitch's concern is about the business, we go out, we get dispatched to somebody with chest pain, we go out, we pick them up. We don't ask them what insurance they have. We don't know if their ability to pay. What other business has a 50% collection rate and is able to survive? If he only got paid for 50% of his trips, he probably wouldn't be in business either. About the financials, I'm responsible myself for 100% of the financial risk, 100% of the liability, and 100% of the responsibility to provide the service to our community. But I have 9 people, I want to dictate whether we make $1 or not. What other business is gonna do that? It's in our contract now, and it's in our contract that we proposed, that the books of any government dollars can be audited. And I think that's reasonable. I think we have to be accountable for it. If you give us $100, we should be able to provide you with what we spent that $100 on. I agree with that.
So is there a reason we have to go out and spend thousands of dollars to hire an auditing firm to tell us that you actually need the money that we're providing for you?
Yes.
That is.
I'll go into EMS, posted on the Facebook page, this story that KWWL presented. What they wrote is takeaways from this story. Number 1, providing EMS is expensive and getting even more so. As volunteerism declines, more paid staff are required. As paid staff are hired, volunteerism declines further. Number 2, reimbursements for Medicare, Medicaid, and Walmart Blue Cross Blue Shield are insufficient to sustain EMS. The typical overall reimbursement rates are around 45% of the true cost of providing the service. Number 3, if nobody wants to pay for EMS, services can close with no replacement in place. It's not an essential service. If you call 911, you could be told there is no ambulance covering your service area and you will need to find your own way to the emergency room. This is how it's going to EMS. They're 2 hours away and they're hearing our story. You want publicity? You got it.
Thank you.
You say this isn't personal, Mayor. However, I've received multiple emails in the last couple days of personal Facebook messages you have sent to people. I think it is personal. You wanted to say in your newspaper article, do we spend money investing in our county now like so many others have our own, not, like so many others and have our own not-for-profit service? There are numerous grants out there for equipment and purchasing ambulances. We would at least have the receipts from the service to help invest the cost. What grants are you talking about?
There's a fireman's grant for purchasing ambulances, there's a USDA grant for purchasing ambulances, there's something for Brimmer County, and that might be USDA. Intercog has mentioned several things for the fire department one that has grants for purchasing ambulances.
What will it cost for you to start your own ambulance service? What are the projected gains and losses for the first few years? Do you have any financial data to back up your statements? How do you plan to staff it? How soon will you be able to get your state licensure, vehicle and liability insurances, Medicaid, Medicare, and other insurance contracts, and who's going to do your billing?
How is any of this on this agenda?
It's not.
Are we discussing EMS?
She gave a report on what the ambulance
city
council
attorney-
had, and you're talking about an entirely different contract.
Is it the city
This
attorney?
isn't something that the city council is even a party to.
Are you a political figure on this board, or are you here to provide legal advice?
I'm here to try to keep this agenda item on point, which is also an open meeting law violation if you get off of it.
Okay, I'll finish then.
Okay.
You know, I worry about us trying to run an ambulance service on our own desk when we couldn't even run the garbage service in town and make any money. You know, the city sold the garbage route because they couldn't make it work. I sure as hell would hate to see our lives on,
So what I think that I don't have something invested in this, but this is my update. If you'd like to pursue this tomorrow night at the ambulance council meeting, there'll be the other people who have a vote besides me. So, one more, and we're done.
Al Popchek, citizen up here. How many people in here want an ambulance in New Hampton or in the county? Okay.
Jeremy.
There's everybody, including the mayor. Now, the council members represent the people. Is that correct? And that's what Kenny, and the mayor represents the council on this ambulance council deal. So what Kenny was trying to say is the council members can tell the mayor to vote, move it on to supervisors so we can get this thing going. So that's,
Now,
yeah.
if the whole thing within the contract was about the money, I have no problem letting them try to figure out the money. It's not. Part of the contract is giving us the same rights as what the service does, which is in the RP, which was excluded out of this. And the fact that we need to, I didn't even get out of that meeting last Monday without a phone call telling me what he just bought. And you know what? I could give a darn what he just bought. But don't tell me that I can't respond and say, you know what? I've seen the books. He really needs the money. It's not a waste of your taxpayer dollars. So I don't even have that opportunity because they say, well, how much does an ambulance cost? Don't know. In this county, I haven't seen the books. Okay, here's the volume of calls. I don't know how many miles they actually went. It's this much per mile. It's this much for this call. It's this much for that call. So revenues, expenditures, just a P&L to tell us that, you know what, people? I hope he buys whatever he wants
Yeah,
in life,
yeah.
but not on the taxpayer's
You know,
back.
you put out the RFP and you only had one person or one service reply to it. The ambulance council doesn't have any money. The city don't have any money.
Well, to be fair,
Let's, you know, the vote tomorrow night, or whatever, what you're gonna do, let's move it on to the supervisors and let's get an ambulance by July 1st.
Deb, can you just explain the process? So tomorrow night, is there a chance that the council can say, okay, let's look at these pieces of the contract that are sticking points for the council that we're talking about tonight? Can that then be negotiated, revised, so it can move forward, or what's the process, formally the process to do that?
I think that there has been some discussion, and they had a group that sat down and negotiated, and that group came out and told me, well, we know you're gonna vote no because they wouldn't touch any of the things that concerned you. It was all changing the money, and that Jeremy might not even actually agree to do that. So that's how that came back out, and two voted just to kind of get the monkey off the back and throw it to the board of supervisors, the other one said, I can't agree to the verbiage either. So that's the way it went tomorrow night. We'll see what happens tomorrow night. We're gonna bring forth what information we have and go with that.
So for those of us that are planning to attend, I mean, can you suggest, I mean, what should we be pushing for? That they're taking this back to the negotiation phase so we can get it moving forward? Or, I mean, ideally, what's the next step for us to push for so we do have a service on July?
Well, we'll have to see what comes up tomorrow night. Other mayors are reaching out to other things and, so I'm gonna finish this up here real
Yeah,
quick.
just one comment.
Yeah.
Aaron Flugan, CEO of Mercy One, I'm sorry. Just to clarify, the hospital does not have resources to start an ambulance at this time, so just want to, I know you said something about us having the resources to do this. I just want to clarify that that's not a correct statement. The other piece of it, just want to, again, comment on Jeremy's conversation about reimbursement and, you know, it is a business. The ambulance service is a business that he's running. I think we'd all agree that it is an essential service for our community. But like the hospital, it's one of those businesses where somebody's dictating how much you get paid every time you do something. So we may set a fee, but again, the payers get to decide what they pay Jeremy. So when you talk about Medicaid, not paying Medicare, Blue Cross Blue Shield, they have all the leverage and negotiate those. So that's why it's a difficult business to say, you know, just charge more, and that doesn't work well. The other piece is the three people that met to try to negotiate that contract. God bless them. The whole ambulance council, God bless them as well. These people are trying to do their best. They don't have experience in doing this. We're trying to work through it as best they can. We were given a short time frame, less than 3 business days, to work on that contract. The sticking point that was discussed at the joint ambulance council and board of supervisors was, one, the board of supervisors is not going to negotiate this agreement, but 2, how are we going to fund it? And that was loud and clear. So I think those 3 people tried to do the best. I was there, personally there. I think they tried to do their best to serve the ambulance council, and they brought it back to you guys in a short time frame because that's all they had. I think it would be unfair to throw it back on them that they only concentrated on the money. They thought they were doing what was asked of them. So, and I was surprised that only 2 of them voted, because I thought when we walked out of there, everybody felt like it was a very constructive meeting, and we worked hard to get to where we thought that agreement, at least that 1-year piece of it, would be passed. But again, we do need an ambulance service. We're open to discuss and facilitate conversation around that. We have a vested interest in ensuring that the people that we serve, the community that we serve, have the ability to get to us. So our nurses can provide life-saving services. But again, we're a little bit in the same boat. Year after year, reimbursement's getting less and less, and we rely heavily on the support of our community to do what we do today. And you know, we employ 130 plus employees, and so we need to focus on our core business, and we try to do that very successfully. And I hope you guys feel that way too. We've had it really well in Chickasaw County. Had a good ambulance service. We had good help. And so we continue to work and have these conversations in a civil manner, so we can get to a resolution. But it is going to take everybody. It's going to take everybody in this room. It's going to take everybody tomorrow night to kind of have those conversations. And if we can continue to do that, and hopefully do it in a civil manner, maybe we can continue to make progress. That short time frame is not conducive to getting an ambulance service by July 1. The reason Iowa Falls was successful is they had things fall in place very rapidly for them. And again, the city took that on and had some good opportunities to do that, and not every community is going to be able to do that. The other focus on that business aspect of it, you know, we talk about the hospital running an ambulance service. Many of them do get some levied funds. But when you talk about Jeremy's business, you talk about 800 calls. That's kind of a fixed volume amount, right? So 800 calls, maybe 650, I think I heard, correct me if I'm wrong, or actually,
650 transports, 800 calls.
so not even all of them are gonna be, you know, a reimbursable call. So you divide that overhead up between those 700 odd calls, and it's different from county to county based on the call volume. So you have to factor that in. It's not apples to apples when you look from county to county. So it is very simple to look at this and say, oh, the hospital should do it, they have nurses. Or, oh, Jeremy should be able to make it on what he brings in through his business. But it's not that simple. It's a very complex web of reimbursement, regulations, and everything. It's not that simple. So again, probably used my 3 minutes, I apologize. But, and again, thank you guys for listening.
Fact of the matter is, as we're doing it right now, as we're operating right now, is the 50,000 sufficient that's currently in the contract? Yes, it is. But we're losing the volunteers. That's the key, is the hiring the second we have to start hiring more full-time staff, is when we start losing money.
So we're gonna take this step up and volunteer. I know that.
Please, Carolyn Martin Shaw. One of the things I think we as a community need to do is talk with our state legislators
Yes.
and our governor to see if we can't get this Medicaid issue dealt with. Communities all across Iowa are having this very same problem. We've heard it here from a number of people. I heard 2 calls just this past week from Charles City asking for our ambulance service to come over there and do their service. So, you know, this is the point where Iowa has an elderly and aging population. Most of them are on Medicaid. Those who aren't are on Medicare. And you can't make it in public service.
So we need to reach out to our governor as we prioritize Medicaid. That's number one. And you reach out to your legislators. That's huge help. Right there, let them know that we're not making it.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I mean, this is a problem that's been pushed down to local government, so it's nothing that anybody in this room has created. It is, the root cause of some of these issues are reimbursement, Medicaid, and that it's not an essential service in the state, right? It's not set up the same way as fire and police. So there are a number of gaps from a legislative standpoint that we should be working on. Long term, though, from an organizational standpoint, or from a community standpoint, you know, how do you bring up paramedics? Again, you're going to have to look at how do we get people to come here, or how do you get people interested long term in being a paramedic? So I think we need to have a lot of discussion about that too in the future, because it's going to be hard to lure people outside the community to come to New Hampton to be a paramedic. That's a challenge that we have in all of our healthcare jobs, is trying to find people to come to our community. And so we've been very fortunate that our school system has raised a number of wonderful healthcare employees, and we've been fortunate enough to recruit some from the outside, but it's going to be a constant battle. And so what are we doing as a community to foster that and to develop people that want to go into those fields? So it goes much deeper than just what we're doing today.
And the other recruitment issue is bringing people to our community. We have to have a hospital, we have to have an ambulance service, a fire department, all of the services that people expect from their community.
Okay, so when we bring the vote out for a referendum, I want to see every one of you guys out there voting yes, so that we have a way to tax for it, we're going to pay for it, because that's going to have to happen. That's all I can do. One more, and shut up.
If this comes down to having to acquire grants for a service, how long do those take to get?
Each one is different. I know that the one out of Brainerd County, that was the USDA one that I looked at, the deadline is June 1st, and I think they award it within a couple months. So, one more.
Obviously, I must have missed something, but one of the first things that I heard you say was that you were going to vote no, but I don't understand, or I missed, why are you, and this was before any discussion, why do you keep saying you're going to vote no? And my other question is, are you going to volunteer?
If you vote me out as mayor, I'll have all kinds of time. Right now, it's been a little busy, but, my vote is because of what the agreement said. And I'm not even saying that if we could come up with the money, it wouldn't be a bad way to spend it, but I'm not gonna write a blank check. I think that it's only fair that the books are open so that we see where the money is going to go, because that's the big question is, oh, you're just writing a blank check. And the other thing is the ability for us to get out of the contract the same way that they're going to, which is kind of why we're in the mess that we're in right now. We had a 5-year contract. It got broken because he needed more money. Can he run it on $50,000? He just said yes. But he wants to hire more, he wants to do things. I understand when you're a business owner, you're there morning, noon, and night, it gets taxing. But it's a matter of, why didn't you know it was going to be 600% more than what it was?
How does anyone know that?
How does, exactly, how does anyone know that? But
600% more a year from
I don't
now.
plan on it. Exactly, how do you plan on it? You don't. So now we just need to step back and say, we're gonna spend $1 million, how is it best invested? And that's what this group is gonna sit down and talk about tomorrow.
So you can't, I guess I don't see how you can say, I'm going to vote no without giving it a chance.
Yes, you did. I voted no against the language in the contract. That would have gone to board supervisors. If you guys think that, okay, I voted no that night with what was presented to me in the language of the
But you
contract.
said you were going to vote no. You didn't say,
No.
yes, yes, I am going to vote no.
I said that they went, those 3 negotiated and said that they didn't negotiate on my behalf because I would say no because there were parts of the language that I asked them to try to negotiate. And that was not negotiated. So they're already coming at me saying, well, this is what we did, but you're gonna vote no anyway because they didn't touch those parts of the contract that I have problems with. So if you think, yeah, just change the parts of the contract. Open your books and give us the same amount.
I thought he said he would do an audit.
Yeah, well, if we pay, we don't have 2,000, 6,000, whatever they would cost for us to go through an audit.
You do an audit every year. Here, why couldn't it be put in the same one?
Can it? I don't see how it could.
Our audit fee's $10,000 a year.
So, you know, why is it such a hard thing to just show, like I said, when things come in front of us, the advisory board to help support a business, they go to you and I, they present a business plan, you see their figures.
Did you guys get figures from general sanitation when you signed a $120,000 agreement with them last month?
$120,000 agreement.
Yeah, $6 and some cents per household.
Oh, because that is, okay, $1.51 per household for them to come up and pick up your recycling. The city doesn't give them any money to come pick up recycling, you're billed for it, that pays for it.
But we're forced to pay for it whether we use it or not.
Yeah, 'cause we
So if we're forced to pay for it, is there accounting as a private corporation, general sanitation is a private corporation, did they provide their financials to the council? So I asked for them and I was told they were not.
You did ask for this.
Yeah.
I didn't have.
They did say that they would.
Yeah, they said they would, I guess.
They was, but did they?
They did say that they would, we need to see them.
Yes.
We request.
Correct.
Did Jeremy say he would provide?
If we pay for it.
No, provide the business books.
If we pay for it.
I will provide them with accounting and of what their money was spent on.
Which is the same thing as,
As far as giving them full disclosure to my folks on a private business, I can do that.
Barb?
That's what I asked you, yeah.
Okay, I'm wrapping it up. Okay, so I'm wrapping it up. If you have any further questions, come tomorrow night, we have the council meeting.
Will you announce where the meeting tomorrow night is and the time?
That's going to be at 6 o'clock at the public service building, or public health is, community service building.
Just service at my wife's grandma, 94 years old. Thank you. They thought it was good. My dad has been in poor health. Thank God I'm here in town this past winter. Otherwise, on the ground. Mom calls me up. I go, otherwise, you have to. By all accounts, people I've talked with who have talked with me, you provide a fine service. So, good job. Now, just hold up. And I think, you know, last time I talked to you, probably was sophomore baseball when you were one of my players. So, our interactions obviously have been very, you know, but it sounds like you do a great job. And, yeah, absolutely. And so, nothing personal, no dog and fight that way. I think you know that. The one thing that people have talked to me about is that last point though, is they think you do a good job, run a good service, and I appreciate all the volunteers. Obviously, I just told you my own story. Thank you, last Friday. But can you explain why again? You just said that because you run a private business, that you're not, yeah, because as we were talking about our budgets, because I'm on the committee with Scott, and this is my 4th year. I mean, I've come to know the insides and outs, not as good as him, but just realized how tight it is for all these people here, Rick in the back. And that's just been the biggest thing is we are responsible for taxpayer dollars and how we spend that and what we do with that, providing obviously a fine service, an essential service, but you know it's not defined as such. So why again did you say that you do not think you need to provide those financials for private service, not your personal stuff? I don't care as much as you don't care about my personal spending, but for your private business. That's still, I think, people are wondering about as kind of stewards of taxpayer dollars.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, it's a valid question. Like I said earlier, I have 100% of the financial risk of the whole service is mine. Nobody else's. Mine. I'm 100% liable for anything that happens with providing the medical care in the field. Nobody else is responsible for that. I'm 100% liable to provide 24/7 service to the community. Saturday, example, I had plans. My kid had a soccer game. We had plans for a birthday party. I had to stay home. Sure, part of the business, part of owning the business, but I had to stay home because there wasn't a single person to take call. None. I've been on call since Tuesday at 6 a.m. last week. I'm off Friday afternoon of this week, 11 days straight. And apparently that can be replaced. As far as the financials, so you have that, and I have 100% of all those liabilities, but if, let's say I show a $50,000 profit, Joe Q Public, 50,000, that's a lot of money. We're blowing an engine, that's fine. You know, I take all the risk and I take all the financial risk, but a group or an ambulance council wants to dictate whether or not we make money. You know, I don't agree with that. To be held accountable for how tax dollars are spent, I'll be right up front with you. If the new contract is approved, that money's going to go in a separate account, and it will show line item expenditures. So that will be accounted for 100%.
Thank you. That's a question that has been brought to me.
Sure.
Numerous occasions. I just appreciate the response. And we don't make that call again as the county.
I kind of feel that if I'm going to show full accounting in my books and they're going to dictate my business down to that point, I think maybe the city should take it over.
One other thing too that goes into his expenses is equipment. Have any of you ever had to purchase a piece of medical equipment?
Okay, as for the meeting tomorrow night at 7 o'clock, at the Civic Service. 6 or 7. It's at 7.
It's at 7 o'clock.
It was told to me 6 o'clock, but it's at 7 o'clock.
EMS building up the town.
No.
Public health building.
Public health building, 260.
Rescue squad building.
Rescue squad building.
Okay.